Lisa,
Yes, baby girl.
when I grow up, I want to be a woman to society.
Then so shall you be.
Hey, this is Lisa Landry. Welcome back to One Menace to Society. I have the great privilege today of speaking with a celebrated psychologist. She is president of the International Positive Psychology Association, professor and founding director of Positive Psychology Center at the University of Melbourne, faculty affiliate with the University of Michigan and Cambridge Universities, and advisory board member of South Australian Medical Health Research Institute. In addition to those credentials, if you're not impressed yet, she's also a TED speaker, an international keynote speaker, and author of The Strength Switch. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Lee Waters.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I hope I got your credentials correct. Do you have something that you're even prouder of that I didn't mention yet? Because you've got quite a list on your bio of things you've been doing for the past 20 years.
It's a long list, and the thing that I'm most proud of actually is being a mum and my 15-year-old son, my 11-year-old daughter.
Beautiful. What's it like to have a mom for a psychologist? Do you know kind of what they're doing at all times, even if they don't verbalize it?
It's a two-edged sword, Lisa. So yeah, sometimes it's a real advantage because I can get a sense of what's happening inside of them and help to steer them in the right direction, or But other times I'm like, I wish I didn't know that actually.
Right.
I've been together with my husband for 27 years, and a lot of people ask him, so what's it like being married to a psychologist? And he has this kind of off the cuff joke that he says, well, I'll put it this way, we have a lot of couches around our house.
That's awesome. Now, you've written what's called, and I'm just going to take a direct quote from your website, which is awesome, by the way. If you're listening, please go check out Lee Waters online. It's an amazing website, all kinds of resources for you. It's a game-changing book that reveals the extraordinary results of focusing on our children's strengths rather than trying to correct their weaknesses. How important is it, Lee, that we as parents and educators even throw focus on our children's strengths?
Well, yeah, such a great question to start with, Lisa. And the thing is, I think most of us as parents would say we understand that we need to have positive praise, we need to see the good in our children. But the reality, on a day-to-day basis is we're time pressured, we're stressed, we're rushed. And so what gets our attention and our focus as a parent tends to be what's not working, tends to be the problem behavior, tends to be the weaknesses that we feel we need to fix. And yet, there's 3 decades now of psychological research to show that if we as parents can help tune our kids into what their own unique strengths are, it's a recipe for mental health, it's a recipe for optimizing their full potential, it's a recipe for a happy family, a good, solid, warm relationship between you and your child. So I can't overstate the importance of parenting in a way where we focus first on what is right with our children before we seek to compensate for what's wrong and what's missing. And that word before, that's the key word. It's not about focusing on what's right and focusing on strengths. By ignoring weaknesses and problem behaviors and challenges, it's just about where we place our attention first as a parent. Place your attention on helping your child to build up their strengths before we focus on compensating for weakness.
Got it. So if our kid has a bad habit or a few bad habits or some weaknesses, we acknowledge that. Obviously, you don't want to live with your head in the sand.
It's basically looking at the whole picture of your child. They bring home their report card and they've got some good marks and some less good marks. Well, normally at the dinner table, our focus would be on the lower marks. Mm-hmm. But what I would say from a strength-based approach, just flip the switch. That's why the book's called The Strength Switch. It's about switching your attention to first the good things. So instead of having a long conversation about the C or the D grade or, the parts of the report that weren't going so well, start first with, tell me about your A. Tell me about that. What were your study habits like? What's your interest in the subject? What's the teacher like? How were you prepared? Because if we can learn about the A and what contributed to the A, we can transfer that back to the C. But our human nature, of course, is we go for the C. Well, this is a problem. What can we do? How can we improve it? And if we spend all our time analysing a problem, we get a great understanding of the problem. If we spend more of our time analysing the solution, that's the way forward. We get a better understanding of what contributes to high performance, the A in this case, and we figure out what elements can we transfer to the lower performance. The metaphor that I use is the notion of a dirty window. When a window's clean, we don't even notice the window. We just look out and see the beautiful view. So when everything's going well with our child, we tend to sort of take that for granted. The minute there's a piece of dirt on the window, that dirt captures our attention, and we tend to zoom on that and forget about the fact that 99% of the window is clean and beautiful, and we're seeing this gorgeous view, but our attention gets zoomed in on, I have to rub out that little bit of dirt. And I guess from a strength-based approach, it's just recognizing, like, look at the whole view, don't get focused in on that one piece of dirt, and just being wise as a parent. You know, there are definitely some pieces of dirt, so to speak, on the window, some problem behavior, some challenges, some weaknesses that we do need to help our kids improve and work on. So if the dirt is impeding the view, absolutely work on it. But just asking ourselves as a parent, do I have to fix everything? You know,
Right.
In the book, I talk about, you know, I give a definition of strengths, and strengths are the things that we perform well, we get energy from, and we're self-motivated to do. So from a parenting perspective, tune into your kids, have a look at where are they showing good performance, you know, rapid learning curve, performance above their age expectations, where are they showing energy? Just look into where they're getting energy, the things that they choose to do, the things they're self-motivated. That's a sign that they're playing to a strength. But I also define a weakness, and a weakness is defined as a fault or a flaw that prevents your ability to be happy or effective. And we all have hundreds and hundreds of faults and flaws, but not all of them stop our ability to be happy or effective. So only focus on improving the faults or flaws if it's something that's blocking your child's happiness, or it's blocking their ability to progress or reach their potential. Like a dirty bedroom, for example.
Okay.
That's not... It may be blocking your ability to be happy,
Right.
but it's not necessarily blocking your child's ability to be happy. It's not necessarily blocking their progress or their ability to reach their potential. So just be wise about what we choose to focus our attention on.
Shut
Does that
the
make
door and
sense?
walk away, yeah? Like they're not smoking cigarettes in their room. They're not sneaking people into their windows so they can have a messy room.
That's exactly right. And, you know, it's just one little piece of dirt on the window.
I have a question for you since you're a psychologist. Do you think many of us as parents, because our children are sort of mini me's, we tend to find the flaws in them that we see in ourselves?
Yes, so insightful that you mentioned that, Lisa. And actually, the second chapter of my book, one of the key premises of the book is, you know, be a strengths-based parent, help to identify the things that your kids are good at and play to that. But you have to look at yourself first to be an effective parent. And chapter 2 of my book is all about that. And what you're talking about from a psychological perspective, we call that a projection bias, meaning that we all have our own weaknesses, faults, flaws, foibles, and we tend to not want to own them, so we kind of push them back into our subconscious. But then, of course, we have these beautiful little creatures called our children who have our DNA, and they develop our habits, and they have some of our weaknesses and faults and foibles. And so what happens in the projection defense mechanism is that when we see, so for example, I use the example of messy room because it's a personal example to me. I'm incredibly messy. Like, I'm super duper messy, always have been, lose everything, always losing my keys, always losing my wallet. When I first met my husband, this is like back in the kind of late 80s, early 90s, I had a part-time job at Target while I was studying to be a psychologist. And this was back in the day before they had electronic pay transfer. So you used to actually get money, like real money, you know, like notes and coins in an envelope. Every 2 weeks you would line up at the little counter inside a Target, and this lady with a grim face would hand you over an envelope. It was your 2 weeks worth of pay, and more often than not, I would lose the envelope.
Oh,
and
no.
I know. It would drive my, you know, then boyfriend, now husband, completely nuts, because he'd be like, what? You've effectively just donated 2 weeks of your time to Target, this multinational corporation. They don't really need your time donation. Like, and then every now and then I'd put my hand into a coat jacket and I'd find like an old pay packet, and I'd be like, oh, wow, bonus. And he'd be like, that's not actually a bonus, Lee. Like, you worked for that money. So it's a long-term ingrained weakness and fault of mine that I'm crazily messy, that I'm a little bit disorganized, that I lose things. And I'm seeing those qualities in my son, Nick. And so what's happening in that projection and that insight that you mentioned before is that it triggers a stronger reaction in me, because essentially what Nick's doing is he's holding up a mirror to me where I'm seeing my own fault and I'm seeing it come through in him. So I clamp down on him more strongly as a result of that. And until you become aware of it, and then you realize, okay, this is actually to do with me. It's much more to do with me than it is to do with them.
So we need to all get the dirt off our own windows first.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Exactly. Oh, be comfortable with the dirt. I'm actually comfortable with the fact that I'm messy and disorganized now. I mean, I'm 47. I've had various phases of my life where I'm like, right, I'm going to work on this, and it doesn't matter what I do. I default back, and I'm now at an age where I'm like, okay, I'm messy. I lose things. My husband this year for Christmas bought me this little electronic device that you can put on your keys and your wallet and your phone, and so you can press the button and find wherever they are. So there's ways around working with the dirt, and I'd rather focus my time and energy on like being a good mum and writing the book and doing what I do well, my strengths, understanding psychology and translating it so that people can understand it and use it in a way that helps them live a happy life. I'm less concerned with the fact that I lose my keys and my room is messy.
Yeah, your keys will show up, again. Yeah.
They always do. They always show up.
If I may recommend, I'm not a psychologist or a scientist or a research person, but I was married to a very type A person previously, and he got me a key bowl for an anniversary. And that way the keys always go into the same place, and you just put it by the foyer. Or,
Nice.
yeah, if that works for you. If not, you can just throw out the husband. That's what I did, but
Well, there are occasions where I do that as well. It's priceless when I actually have my keys, and then I do this little thing where I run into the lounge room and I'm like, has anyone seen my keys? So, I'm in this real panic because I'm running late, of course.
Right.
And then you see his face go, oh, and then I'm like, just joking. And I wave them in front of his face, and then I run out giggling. So, but yeah, that's just a really good example. You can develop mechanisms that help you to overcome the weakness. You don't have to completely scrub out that piece of dirt.
Yeah, right. You can leave yourself little notes around the home. I have friends who do that with Post-its, or just retrain yourself to always put something, or not. Like you're saying, just be like, screw it. This is what I do. It always works out. I've got lives to change. I don't have time to worry about my keys.
Exactly.
You've been a strength-based scientist for more than 20 years. That's 2 decades of observation and research. And I noticed a quote on your fantastic website. I can't say that enough. It's fantastic. Check it out. Most parents struggle with this shift in thought because they suffer from a negativity bias. Can you please explain what is negativity bias?
Yeah, for sure. So the negativity bias is a universal human phenomenon. It's a bias in our brain that's built into all of us. Doesn't matter if you're a very optimistic person, doesn't matter if you've got a very kind of playful personality. This is a subconscious bias that everyone has. And the bias means that our attention gets grabbed more quickly, and we spend more time on the negative things in our environment than the positive things in our environment.
Right.
Now, the evolutionary psychologists have helped us to understand that by saying that this bias in our brain, the negativity bias, actually helped our species to survive, because when the brain has this negativity bias and it's constantly at a subconscious level, constantly scanning the environment, where's the threat, what can go wrong, where's the error, what do I need to fix, what's the problem? These were the ancestors who had that early detection system of, for example, hearing a little rustle in the bush behind us, and so therefore being able to quickly run away from a potential predator. These were the ancestors who were about to put a berry into their mouth, who detected, you know what, this doesn't smell quite right. So they have this kind of early detection system because their negativity bias was helping them to zoom in more quickly and pay a larger amount of our attention to what can go wrong compared to what can go right. Can you imagine what happened to our ancestors down on the savannah who didn't have that negativity bias?
They were dinner.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So their gene pool didn't continue on. And so, it's built into our brain. It's hardwired into us. It's a universal phenomenon. It ensured the survival of our species. And even today, it's a useful bias for us. It's the bias when we see a certain person's name come into our inbox in the email that, and you get that little alarm, what's happening here. Or it's the bias that you're just about to step off onto the street from a curb, and some little instinct tells you, you know what, just wait a minute, wait a second. And of course, a speeding car comes around the corner. So it's a really important part of our brain, feature of our brain, the negativity bias for our survival, but it's not the best feature of our brain when it comes to having a positive relationship with our child.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as you can imagine, as much as we love our children, and as I said before, even if you're a very optimistic, upbeat person, your brain is being wired over eons of our species to detect the problem, fix the problem, detect the problem, fix the problem. That's what our brain is constantly telling us to do. And so taking a strength-based approach does require a bit of effort. It is about repatterning your brain and stepping back and realizing, negativity bias, I'm focusing on the dirt, I'm forgetting to see the rest of the window.
I'm one of those people. I had massive negativity bias for a great majority of my life. It was instilled in me by the people who raised me. No disrespect to those people, but it was all about, oh, we can't do this because it's going to be this, it's going to do this, it's going to be that, it's going to, all these obstacles without even just picking up the phone first and seeing what the actual situation of an event. How do we human beings, all of us, especially parents, if we are patterned into that negativity bias, how do we switch out of it? Is it hard?
Yes and no. So, I mean, even when you tell me that that's been your experience as a child, like that makes my body feel heavy just listening to that, because we have the negativity bias hardwired into our brain, but then we also have our social conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add those two things together, it's not easy to start to learn how to focus on strengths. And I have to be honest for that. Strength-based parenting it's not for the faint-hearted, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like it's skill. It's a skill. It's learning how to train yourself how to shift your attention. So it's like tying your shoelaces. It's like starting a diet. It's like correcting your posture. Like any skill that you want to learn to have a happier life takes a little bit of effort. But over time, because you're repatterning your brain, it just becomes easier and easier and easier until it becomes quite automatic. And I'll say that, and I'll also say it doesn't take as long as you would imagine. The psychological research shows if you dedicate a focus to this, after about 8 weeks, we start to see neural changes in the brain. The brain's attentional patterns shift. So after about 8 weeks, you'll notice that this is actually becoming easier. I'm kind of more automatically seeing the strengths in my kids first before I see their weaknesses. Because it is an effortful process, I do talk parents through in the book around, here's how to learn it, here's how to trial it. Don't think you'll be perfect at it the first day. Learn it and trial it and practice it at certain times during the week. Like for me, I would never try and practice any new skill, but especially a parenting skill, at breakfast time when I'm trying to get my kids out of the door for school, because that's just always inherently a tense, time-pressured situation, especially because I'm not great at time and I'm the one who's typically like running late for the kids. So I wouldn't practice it then, but I practice it on the weekends because I have the luxury of time. We're together. I practice it on vacation with my family. I practice it in times during the week where I know that they're the better times, because A, it's easier, but B, again, from a psychological perspective, the research shows us that those happy times during the week change our brain chemistry. And it's easier to learn a new habit when you have this kind of positive brain chemistry. You have serotonin and dopamine going through your brain. Habits form more quickly.
So some of us as parents need to apply mindfulness when we get ready to work through the format of the strength switch, right? Like, I read it and I was thinking this kind of heals your inner child too.
Oh, beautiful. I love it that you said that. I actually love both of your insights. So yeah, absolutely. Mindfulness, just taking a deep breath, being present, saying, right, for the next half an hour, I'm really going to practice flicking the switch. I'm going to be present to my own projections, my own negativity bias. I'm going to tune into my children, see signs of energy, good performance, self-motivation. So it does require mindfulness. I mean, the nice thing about mindfulness in that situation is that you are doing it for your children, but the more you are mindful, the better it is for your own mental health. And then what I love, what you've added, Lisa, is that additional layer of it's not just good for your mental health in that moment. It can actually go back and heal. And that's certainly been my own experience as a parent, in just generally as a parent with my children. I was raised in an abusive home and had a lot of struggles in my teenage years with an eating disorder, and then a lot of struggles in my 20s and my 30s with anxiety and depression, and very sadly lost my sister to suicide.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That's that's a whole other topic. But what I found in taking this strength-based approach to my children, because I'm very, very committed to kind of breaking a cycle of intergenerational abuse, but the more I'm doing it for my children, the more it's coming back and healing me and making me a calmer, stronger, more resilient person.
That's beautiful. That's what I mean. Isn't that what it's about? You're parenting, but they're parenting us too, right? Kind of, sort of, because we're all sharing that DNA, all that stuff that's built up in our cells and our patterns and our pasts.
We can learn so much from our children. You know, they are our teachers, and they have so much potential to teach us if we're open to it.
Can throwing the strength switch work for older children too, like tweens and teenagers?
Yeah, 100%. So, and I get that question a lot. And actually, in the book, I deliberately have a whole chapter on like, how do you do this with teenagers? And I have a teenage son myself now. So Nick's 15, and for anyone who's listening out there, I'm just going to say one word: Fortnite. Anyone who's got a teenage son or potentially a teenage daughter, although it is a gaming trend much more with teenage boys across the world, you know, the teenage years are they're fascinating, aren't they? And they're complex and they're challenging. And you see your teenager 1 minute you see a glimpse of the adult they're going to become, and another minute you see this like 2-year-old having a tantrum in a 15-year-old's body. And so that can be very testing as a parent. And this is the testing times. Like I said, once you practice it in the good times and you repattern your brain, and it just becomes an automatic way of looking at the world. Strength-based parenting, I think, has its most power in the testing times, in the testing times of the teenage years, and also, as I mentioned before, in your own personal challenges, your own darkness and times of challenge in life.
Oh, yes, those teenage human beings can be quite something, Lee. I appreciate y'all for listening. Please come back for part 2 of my interview with Dr. Lee Waters. Check out her website at strengthswitch.com. That is dedicated all to her new book. And she has an original website, leewaters.com. That's Lee, L-E-A, waters.com. My website is where you go to subscribe to my YouTube channel, lisalandry.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and you will have first notification when her part 2 drops next Womanist Wednesday. Shout out Ari Bear. I know we're talking about teenagers, but you ain't never going to be a teenager because you'll always be my baby. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do. You'll always be my baby. Because you'll always be my baby. Who needs a book now, huh? Who needs a book? Who needs a psychiatrist now, huh, y'all?